My name's Alyssa, and I'm a paramedic. By the end of a 12-hour shift, I'm basically running on caffeine and pure autopilot. We'd had the usual mix of calls: one rollover, two overdoses, an elderly woman in full panic mode. By the time I rolled into that gas station, I was past the point of exhaustion. Scrubs still on, hair tied back, fingers smelling like antiseptic. All I wanted was to pump gas, grab my coffee, and get home before the adrenaline of the shift wore off. But that stop, one I'd made 100 times, ended up being a turning point. It was a clear, cold Flagstaff night. I took the exit for the same 24-hour gas station I always use after night shifts. It's comfortingly predictable. Two bright canopy lights, maybe two cars at the pumps, and a clerk who perpetually looks like he's counting the minutes until sunrise. I pulled up, put the car in park, and started pumping gas. My mind drifted back to our last call. Chest pain, possible cardiac. Nothing dramatic. But one of those things that sticks with you. That's the moment a truck pulled in. Old pickup, loud engine, headlights straight toward me. He didn't pull up to a pump. He just idled in the space next to me. Driver alone, hat low, windows tinted darker than they had any right to be. He never got out. I told myself he was probably texting or checking his GPS, but the way he leaned himself toward my car set off a little internal alarm. I didn't react. I've seen worse people in worse moods at 3 a.m., but I noticed. When the pump clicked off, I capped it and decided I needed caffeine more than I needed to analyze whatever this guy's deal was. Inside, the store felt too bright after the dark lot. Something soft from the early 2000s played over the speakers. The clerk gave me a tired nod. I grabbed a coffee and set it on the counter. He scanned it, looked past me toward the pumps, then paused. "You know your buddy's in the car, right?" he said. My stomach didn't lurch or anything dramatic. It was more like a switch flicked on in my brain, scene assessment mode. "My what?" He nodded toward my sedan. "Guy in your passenger seat. Thought you two came in together." I stepped one pace sideways and looked through the window. My car looked normal from the front. The only detail that stuck out was the passenger side window, a small fogged patch in the center as if someone had leaned close and breathed on it. "Can you call 911 for me?" I asked. "Just tell them possible prowler, female owner present, white sedan, and describe the truck that was next to me." He grabbed the phone immediately, looking rattled now. I walked out calmly, keys in one hand, phone in the other. The pickup was gone, completely gone. No engine fading, no taillights leaving the lot, just empty pavement where he'd been sitting. My car was alone under the bright lights. Passenger window clear now. No fog, no smudge. I approached slowly, stopping a good few steps away. I approached the driver door and cracked it open. I swept the interior with my phone's flashlight. Front seat, empty. Floor, empty. Back seat, work bag and hoodie, untouched. But the air inside smelled wrong, someone else's scent lingering. Stale sweat and cheap cigarette smoke. I sat down but kept the door open. That's when I noticed the passenger seat belt. It wasn't hanging flat. It was twisted, pulled across the seat in a way that only happens when someone drags it too fast or forcefully buckles in. I hadn't had a passenger in weeks. That detail tightened something deep inside my chest in a way no emergency call ever has. The police arrived in under 5 minutes. The clerk repeated what he'd seen: a man in a hoodie sitting in my passenger seat, facing forward, like he was waiting. They pulled up the station's security footage in the back. The quality was awful, like watching ghosts argue through a snowstorm, but some details were clear. Me getting out of the car alone, the truck pulling in, the driver stepping out and moving toward the passenger side of my car, and then stepping just out of the camera's field of view. You could see him in one angle, a blurry figure near my passenger door, hood up, head down. He stayed there for several seconds. No face, though. No plate. Without a crime, the officers couldn't do much besides file the report and suggest I stay aware, as if awareness had ever been my issue. I drove home with every light on inside the car. I slept badly, waking up 3 times convinced someone was sitting in the dark at the foot of my bed. It passed, but the habit didn't. Now, before I ever get in my car, I circle it once, check the back seat, check the floor, smell the air, check if the seatbelt sits wrong. If anything feels even slightly off, I walk away and reset before getting in. On night shifts, when I'm teaching rookies scene safety, I've added a new line. Emergencies don't start on scene. They start in the parking lot. They start at the gas pump. And they start the moment you decide not to check your backseat. I've treated strangers who survived things they shouldn't have. I've walked into houses where danger was obvious from the street. Those moments don't bother me like this did. Because this time I wasn't on duty. I wasn't armed with gear, or backup, or a partner. I wasn't expecting danger. And somebody, some stranger, sat in my car waiting for me to come back. I still don't know what he wanted, but I know he almost got close enough to try. I've always been the helpful stranger type. Nurses usually are. We're trained to calm people down, answer questions, make things easier. But the night I met that map guy, I learned there are situations where being helpful is the last thing you should be. This was in 2020, after a long shift at the hospital. 16 hours short-staffed, juggling post-ops and a teenager who tried to disappear with a bottle of pills. By the time I clocked out, my whole body felt like it needed to be unplugged and restarted. I stopped for gas on my way home at a little station off the interstate. It wasn't even dark yet, just that early evening dim where everything looks flat and washed out. A couple of cars were there. Country music leaked from someone's open window. I stuck the nozzle in, leaned against the car, and zoned out. Then I noticed a man walking toward me. He looked normal enough. Late 30s or early 40s, jeans, jacket, ball cap. And he was carrying an actual paper map, the kind no one uses anymore unless they're lost or old-fashioned. He smiled in an embarrassed way, like he already knew he was being inconvenient. "Hey," he said, stopping a few feet away. "You from around here?" "Sort of. What's up?" He lifted the map. Trying to get to, he named a small town about 50 minutes away. "And my GPS isn't loading. Can you point me in the right direction?" I gave him basic directions. Straight on I-90, watch for signs, exit when you see the highway marker. But he didn't seem interested in remembering anything. "So, left at the light?" he asked. "There's no light until you get off," I said. "Oh, right." He stepped closer. I shifted a bit. He followed. And again, each time I made space, he filled it. He kept tapping different spots on the map, but it was never fully open. He kept it folded in a way that made me lean in slightly to see, something I had zero interest in doing. His car was parked behind mine, but his nozzle was just hanging there. No card in the reader, no pumping gas, just placed there so it looked like he had a reason to be wandering around. I noticed other details. His nails were chewed to the quick. His eyes kept doing this cycle. My car, my badge, the hospital logo on my hoodie. Car, badge, hoodie, over and over. I wrapped up the conversation as politely as possible. "Well, good luck," I said. My tank was almost full anyway. As I moved to my driver's door, he leaned toward the small gap before I could close it. "Maybe I'll follow you," he said with a small laugh. "I'm bad with directions." "I'm not going straight home," I said, closed the door, locked it before the latch even clicked, and drove off. 2 minutes later, I saw his car merge onto the highway behind me. Same make, same color. I told myself it was coincidence. But he didn't pass. Traffic was light, he had plenty of room. He just stayed there. My pulse climbed, but anger climbed with it. I didn't want fear to be the only explanation. There's an exit I normally take. It leads to a well-lit strip with a gas station, fast food, and always other cars. I flicked my blinker on, pretending I was taking it. At the very last second, I went straight. I watched him in the mirror. He took the exit. No hesitation, no correction. Gone. Relief hit me in this weird, shaky wave. I kept driving, hands tight on the wheel, trying to settle the buzzing in my chest. About 25 minutes later, I saw flashing lights ahead. A trooper had someone pulled over on a wide shoulder. I slowed. Couldn't help it. The car looked like his. As I passed, I saw a woman in the passenger seat with her hands over her face, shoulders shaking. And the man standing outside with an officer, the jawline under the cap looked awful familiar from the side. I didn't breathe until I was 20 minutes past it. For the next 2 days, I checked local news constantly. I refreshed the same community page over and over, pretending it was casual. Then a tiny article appeared. Trooper interrupts attempted abduction on highway shoulder. A woman had signaled distress. The driver refused to let her out. A trooper spotted her through the window. The location matched. The car description matched. The timing matched. And something else clicked painfully. That woman could have been me. Maybe he approached me because he needed a new target. He told me he'd follow me. He tried to stand close enough that I couldn't step back. He kept looking at my badge and the hospital logo. He wasn't pumping gas. I didn't tell anyone at work. I didn't want to hear, "You're lucky," "You did the right thing," or the one I knew would bother me most. Nothing happened. Something did happen. It just didn't happen to me. Now, when someone walks up at a pump with a phone, a map, or even a friendly smile, I don't play helpful. I put the car door between us and keep my voice short. "Sorry, can't help. Ask inside." I lock the door while I'm saying it. Sometimes I think about pulling over on that shoulder, what I would have done if I'd known what was happening inside that car. But guilt is cheap when you're guessing with hindsight. Realistically, I escaped something I didn't understand in the moment. And I think about that woman, whoever she is, seeing my car drive past, seeing me safe while she was trapped. Ever since that night, every gas station looks different. Every stranger with a question has a shadow behind them. And whenever someone jokes about how old-fashioned paper maps are, I hear one sentence I'll never forget. "Maybe I'll follow you." I've filmed in some weird places for my road trip vlog, but this is one stop I'll never turn into content. Summer 2021, outside Reading. I'd been driving for hours getting B-roll of empty highways and old signs. Brutal sun, long stretch of nothing. I was low on gas, snacks, and patience, so when I saw a sun-bleached gas station with 2 pumps and a hand-painted sign, I pulled in. The whole place looked like it gave up in the late 80s. Inside, the clerk barely looked at me. Daytime judge show on TV, air that smelled like dust and warm soda. I asked for the bathroom and he dropped a giant metal key on the counter, attached to a heavy chain and a warped plastic tag. Round back, green door. Classic road trip setup. I figured I'd grab a few shots afterward. Old school station vibes always do well on my channel. I walked around to the back. The green door had a peeling "Customers Only" sign and initials scratched into the paint. The knob stuck until I leaned into it, and when it popped open, the stale, too warm air hit immediately. Mix of industrial cleaner and old sweat. Inside was a single-stall bathroom. Cracked mirror, tiny sink, beige walls stained with time. I closed the door and tried the inside lock. It fought me the whole way. And then I saw the scratches. Deep gouges carved into the wood and metal around the latch. Not chipped paint. Not normal wear. Clawing marks. Desperate marks. And they weren't old either. I stood there staring, trying to convince myself it was vandalism or some kid messing around. But I've been on enough trips to know what panic looks like. I took care of business fast and kept my eyes off the door. While washing my hands, I got that quiet, prickly sense that the room wasn't as empty as it looked. I checked the mirror. Nothing. Checked the floor. Nothing. Still didn't shake the feeling. So I looked up into the corner by the ceiling. There it was, a tiny off-white plastic dome tucked where the wall met the ceiling. Not a store security cam aimed at the door. This was angled down at the toilet and sink, hidden just enough that nobody rushing in would notice it. I know cameras. I've reviewed enough for my channel to recognize one instantly, and this was real. No blinking light, no housing meant to fake people out. A legit, cheap Wi-Fi model. I dried my hands, unlocked the door, and stepped out into the sunlight, feeling like I had to breathe deeper than normal. Inside the store, I set the key on the counter and said, as casually as I could manage, "Hey, you know there's a camera in that bathroom, right?" The clerk stiffened immediately. Eyes went sideways, then down. His voice tightened. "Fake housing. We had vandalism. Just for show." I wasn't buying it. "Yeah," I said. "Looks pretty real from in there." He didn't look at me again. Didn't ask questions. Just wanted the conversation over. I walked outside like nothing was wrong and snapped a couple of discreet photos of the building layout and door before getting into my car. Locked the doors. Sat there a minute letting the AC hit my face while everything replayed in my mind. The scratched lock, the gouges, and that camera pointing exactly where it shouldn't be. Back at my motel that night, I zoomed into the corner of the photos I took and confirmed what I already knew. A quick online search nailed it. A $25 Wi-Fi cam sold for baby monitoring, pet cams, and hidden surveillance setups. Comes with remote viewing apps and occasionally motion alerts. Someone installed that on purpose, someone checked the feed, and someone left it running. I wasn't about to call the local station and become the bathroom guy, but I wasn't letting it slide either. I reported the address to the state's non-emergency line, and then to a hotline that handles covert camera cases. Sent the photos. Stayed anonymous. A few weeks later, buried in local news, I saw a tiny article. Rural gas station under investigation for a hidden bathroom camera. No names, no results, but enough to make me feel like I did the right thing. I never used the footage from that stop in my vlog. Even thinking about it made me feel gross. My channel is about weird Americana, not other people's humiliation. Someone was filming strangers at their most vulnerable, and that's not something you turn into entertainment. Ever since that day, I avoid any bathroom that requires a giant key attached to a heavy chain. If I absolutely have to use one, I check the corners first. I check vents. I check ceiling tiles. And when I'm filming in quirky roadside bathrooms now, the kind of joke shots I used to throw in for laughs, sometimes I stop and think, is somebody else already filming me? Most people never look up. I do now, every single time. After all these years doing night deliveries, you kind of think you've seen it all. Drunks stumbling out of motels, guys screaming at themselves behind dumpsters, clerks asleep behind bulletproof glass. After a while, nothing surprises you. Or so I like to think. It was late fall 2022, almost midnight, on a run that stretched from Knoxville out into the hill towns and back. I'd been driving for hours, legs stiff and eyes burning. I knew the exit just before the city, a big gas station with a convenience store that stayed well lit all night. Safe enough for a bathroom break and a drink refill. I parked my delivery van along the side, killed the engine, and sat there a second letting the ringing in my ears settle after hours of road noise. A couple cars were fueling up, nothing sketchy. I headed inside. A young clerk leaned against the counter, scrolling on his phone. I nodded. He barely looked up. Normal. I walked toward the back coolers to grab a drink, and before I could reach for the cooler door, I saw her. A woman in a red coat, bright enough to stand out in all that fluorescent light, stood perfectly still in front of the freezer doors. Empty cart, one hand resting on the handle. Eyes locked on the glass like she was waiting for it to show her something. She didn't blink, didn't shift, didn't react. I eased past her and said, "Excuse me," the way you do when someone's blocking your path. Nothing. From the side, I could see her eyes, wide, focused, locked on something so intensely it pulled her whole body forward. The longer I looked, the stranger it felt. Most people look up, give a quick smile, twitch, breathe differently. She didn't do any of that. I grabbed a bottle from the cooler next to her. When I looked back, she hadn't moved a millimeter. It was like someone hit pause on her. Then I noticed something else. The way her eyes were angled didn't quite match what was in front of her. It was like she wasn't really looking into the freezer, but at some reflection I couldn't see from my angle. I shook it off. Night driving messes with your head. I walked a few aisles over, grabbed chips, and headed to the register. As the clerk rang me up, I tried to sound casual. "Hey, is that woman in the red coat okay? She's been staring at the freezer since I came in." He frowned. "What woman?" I pointed back toward the frozen section. He leaned sideways, then stepped out from behind the counter. We both looked down the aisle. Empty. Not walking away down another aisle empty. Just empty. "No, she was right there," I said, suddenly feeling stupid even as the words came out. "Hand on the door handle. I had to walk around her." He shrugged. "Didn't see anyone come in except you." I checked the emergency exit near the restrooms. Still sealed. No alarm. No one slipping out quietly. "People wander around," he said, already heading back to the counter. "Long day?" "Yeah," I said. "Maybe." He rang me up and went back to his phone. I stood there longer than I meant to, like staring at that freezer aisle, trying to make the red coat reappear. Something kept itching at the back of my mind, so I looked up at the cameras mounted near the ceiling. "You got a view of that aisle?" I asked. He sighed like I'd asked him to scrub the bathrooms, but he picked up the remote and flipped through the feeds until the freezer aisle popped up. "There," I said. "Can you rewind like a minute?" He tapped buttons. The footage jumped back. I watched myself walk into frame. Me grabbing a drink, me stepping around the spot where the woman had stood, and beside me, no one. No red coat, no still figure, no one blocking the freezer door, just empty tile and my own reflection in the glass. "See," he said, "nobody there." On the screen, I turned my head at the exact moment I'd said, "Excuse me," but I was looking at nothing. That landed way deeper than I expected. "Guess I'm more tired than I thought," I said. He smirked. "Happens." I walked out feeling a little off-kilter, like my brain and my eyes had gotten out of sync. Outside, I checked the back of my van before getting in. Habit, sure, but also because that red coat was still stuck in my head. As I pulled onto the highway, the road stretching out black and empty, the image kept replaying. Her motionless posture, that blank focus, like her brain was stuck on one terrible moment and couldn't look away. Could have written it off. Stress, exhaustion, weird lighting. Some woman who walked off fast and quiet. But the camera footage bothered me. Cameras don't lie. My brain does sometimes, especially on hour 9. A couple weeks passed. I stopped thinking about it as much. Routes blurred together. Hospitals, industrial parks, rural clinics where the only bathroom is a portable one behind the building. Then, one night, I had the radio tuned to a local call-in show. A woman called saying something about a missing person from just outside Knoxville. A woman last seen wearing a red coat at a gas station off the interstate. This was about a year ago, she added. Family still hasn't heard anything. My hands locked on the wheel. Could have been a different gas station. Could have been a different coat. My brain immediately tried to play it down. Coincidence. Nothing more. Didn't matter. The freezer aisle came back to me instantly. Her hand on the door handle. Her eyes locked on something behind the frost. The way she didn't move, didn't blink, didn't react. The way the clerk never saw her. The way the cameras showed empty air. I didn't sleep well that night. Now, whenever I stop at a convenience store during a long route, I walk the long way around aisles instead of brushing past anyone who seems too still. And I avoid the freezer aisle until the very end. Sometimes, I still catch myself looking for that red coat and wondering if she's staring right back through the glass, just out of sight. I'm a mechanic, so I'm used to people lying to me about what's wrong with their car. But this was the first time the lie had nothing to do with a car at all. I was heading home from a late shift, hands still stained with grease, shirt smelling like burnt oil. It was close to midnight, that tired, heavy kind of quiet where all you want is a shower in your bed. I stopped at this tiny gas station 15 minutes outside Lubbock. 3 pumps, buzzing lights, clerk who's half asleep every night I'm there. I filled up, grabbed a soda and a burrito, and was already thinking about the driveway I'd pull into 10 minutes later. I'd just started rolling out when I saw him. A guy stood near the edge of the lot, right where the light fizzles out into open dark. Mid-30s maybe. Clean jacket, jeans, baseball cap. Normal enough to not raise alarms. He had a red plastic gas can at his feet, and his thumb pointed toward the road. He stepped forward like he expected me to stop, and, stupidly, I did. He leaned down to my open window with this quick smile. "Hey man, sorry. My car ran out of gas just down the road. Think you could give me a lift?" I looked into the direction he pointed. Nothing but darkness and a thin line of asphalt disappearing. "How far?" I asked. "Just a couple minutes," he said. "Been stuck out here a while." Then he picked up the gas can and handed it to me, like proof. It was light, too light, and there was no smell. You can't handle a gas can without catching even a hint of fumes. This thing may as well have come straight from the shelf at Walmart. Something about that hit me sideways. But I help stranded drivers all the time. Tow them, jump them, give rides when needed. That's what you do in this line of work. So I ignored the weird feeling and unlocked the passenger door. "All right," I said, "but if we don't see your car soon, you're walking the rest." "Fair enough." He climbed in, shut the door soft like he didn't want to draw attention. At first, the talk was harmless. "Thanks, man. Long night, huh?" That sort of thing. But his answers felt thin, like he was saying the minimum amount required. "Where do you work?" "Oh, around." "You from here?" "Staying with friends." "What kind of car do you drive?" "Just a Toyota." He didn't give a model or a color or anything you'd normally say without thinking. Meanwhile, the road got darker and emptier. The glow from the station shrank behind us until it was just a smear in the mirror. Every time I looked ahead, he looked behind us, staring into the rear view like he expected someone to show up back there. After a minute, he started asking questions that didn't sit right. "You live alone?" he said. "Kinda," I answered, watching him from the corner of my eye. "You work nights like this a lot?" "Sometimes." He tapped his fingers on the empty gas can and said, "Not many cars use this road at night, huh?" That one he didn't try to disguise. "No," I said. "Not many." We passed a wide gravel shoulder, nothing parked there. Another minute later, still nothing. No hazard lights. No broken down Toyota. Nothing. "How far exactly?" I asked. He gave me the same answer. "Just past the next bend." Except we'd already hit 2 bends and we're heading toward another. "All right," I said, trying to keep my tone calm. "If it's not in sight in the next minute, I'm turning around." He didn't respond. Just looked out his window like he could see something I couldn't. Another quarter-mile passed. Still no car. That was enough for me. I eased onto the next big gravel shoulder, the crunch under the tires breaking the silence inside the car. I put it in park. "Okay," I said. "This is where you get out. I'm not driving farther until I see your car." He turned to me fast. "What?" he snapped. "You heard me," I said. "We've passed 3 places you could have pulled over. There's no car. You're getting out." His whole personality shifted, like someone unplugged the polite version of him. "You can't just leave me out here," he said. "Come on, man. Don't be like that." I kept my voice firm. "You can get out here, or I'll drive you back to the station and you can explain your story to the cop who usually parks there." Total bluff. I had no clue where the cops even were that night, but I made it sound real. He stared at me, trying to figure out how much pushback I'd give. I didn't blink. After a long beat, he muttered something under his breath, opened the door, and stepped out. He slammed it hard. I pulled forward slowly, watching him shrink in the mirror. He didn't walk toward a car. He didn't wave for another ride. He just stood there in the dark, staring after me like he wasn't sure which way he wanted to go yet. I pressed the pedal and didn't stop until the gas station lights reappeared. When I walked back inside, the clerk looked up, surprised. "Back already?" I leaned on the counter. "You know that guy with the red gas can? The one by the road?" The clerk's face stiffened like concrete setting. "You picked him up?" "Yeah," I said. "Why? What's up?" He rubbed his hands together, then lowered his voice. "That stretch past here isn't safe at night," he said. "Cops been patrolling out there more since they found a body last year. Roads mostly closed off after dark. Not officially, but people avoid it." He looked straight at me. "They say some guy's been trying to flag drivers down. Different stories every time. Ran out of gas, hurt animal, whatever. Folks pick him up, drive a while, realize the story doesn't add up. You're not the first one he's tried." I felt something crawling under my skin. Anger, fear, and that delayed punch of realizing exactly how close I'd gotten to a situation I didn't understand. Later that week, a police buddy of mine swung by the shop to get his cruiser checked. I asked him about the road. He didn't give details, just nodded and said, "There's a reason patrols are heavier out there. Some incidents. People being lured off the main road. Nobody gets a plate. Guy disappears before we get there." Then he tapped the hood of his cruiser and said, "Your instincts kicked in at the right time. Lots of people ignore theirs." I can tell the story now with a little half smile, but it's not a real one. I still help people with real car trouble. It's part of the job. But now, every time someone waves a gas can at me on a dark road, I look twice. And if the story's soft, the car's invisible, and the can's empty, I roll the window up and keep driving. Wave at somebody else, I say, "I'm not your ride." If these gas station moments made you rethink ever stopping alone at night, smash that like button, hit subscribe so you never miss the next scare, and tell me what you'd do if someone approached your car the way these people did. And if you're still not creeped out enough, let's take it somewhere even more familiar. Click now to watch 4 scary restaurant horror stories, because sometimes the danger isn't outside, it's sitting 3 tables over. Or just leave it running. Another horror story is already on the way. Thanks for watching. Stay alert, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next nightmare.